standing by her husband as he raped young JC, as he fathered her 2 daughters. Well, get this. Philip's brother says Nancy was under a spell all those years. And now Nancy's attorney is saying she can't get a fair trial because of the media's scrutiny of her. Give me a break.
Steve Kardian, he has a printing business. Did they ever ask him, who's your designer?
That is the job of the parole department and parole division, is to go in there, be inquisitive, look around, ask questions. If, in fact, they did see that card, who is this girl? I want to speak with her. I want her contact information, and why is she listed on your card? And it comes down to, Jane, was he that good in the system, that bad, or was it a combination of both? And it's going to take an extremely long time for all of this to come out, for law enforcement to gingerly handle those children and JC. And it's going to take years before this is all sorted out, because they've got to be handled with kid gloves. They're very vulnerable.
Steve Kardian, and she watched the child, allegedly, and kept her hostage for 5 months.
And Jane, for that reason, if there's anybody out there that thinks that she should get some sort of a break, they're crazy. She deserves to be seated right alongside him, not in the electric chair, but in the electric couch.
Tonight, staggering new details in the brutal rape and killing of adorable 8-year-old Sandra Cantu.
Steve Kardian, former criminal investigator, what are your thoughts about possible scenarios? Because authorities, according to KOVR, have said that this woman has given them 4 different explanations of what happened.
Yes, Jane, and that's correct to my understanding in talking with the law enforcement officials out on the West Coast. That is the case. But I also suspect and I believe that she also had some intimate details of that crime to persuade law enforcement to make an arrest at this time as well.
But, I mean, what do you make of the 4 different stories?
It's par for the course during an investigation when you have a deceptive criminal. They're going to make up stories to try and remove themselves as suspect. They're going to try and derail the investigation and your efforts in putting closure to the case.
Escalating alarm and sheer panic as the wedding day for beautiful missing grad student 24-year-old Annie Lee quickly approaches. Her sudden disappearance is making headlines. There we go. Take a look at it. This is the front page of the New York Post. It screams, "Bride vanishes." There has been no sign of the bride-to-be since Tuesday morning. This is part of the war on women. Breaking news just in, Steve Kardian. In our earpieces, Mary Snow, who was at the scene, reporting that 2 cadaver dogs have been brought into the building, which just churns my stomach. What's the significance?
Jane, it's par for the course, and it's something that they do. God forbid if there was something, or if there is a body, now would be the time that they would hit up on it.
Let's bring in Steve Kardian. Steve, as an investigator, you're searching her apartment. What are you looking for? What clues do you need there?
Well, Mike, first thing, they're going to try and rule out anything of the criminal nature, and they haven't as of yet. So they're going to look at her computer, they're going to look at her phone records, they're going to look at anything in terms of her recent contact or prior contact with anyone. If this were some sort of a cold feet, runaway bride situation, she couldn't have pulled this off without assistance. And they're going to be looking for that. They're going to be looking for a direction to go in, and they're going to look for any criminality, anybody that may have been stalking her, anybody that she may have had a problem with in the past, including her coworkers and fellow students.
Hey, there you go, Steve, as our investigator. Fiance cooperating. How much do you dig in on him? How much do you need to question him?
Well, Mike, we know that most crimes are perpetrated by persons that we know, including kidnappings, including homicides. So they are going to look at everybody and anybody that was close to her. And can I make a quick comment about her article? Her article, I lecture across the country at colleges and campus on campus safety, sexual assault. And it almost was that her article was a story that she was telling based upon her experience.
Let's read a couple excerpts from that, Steve.
Breaking news in the spotlight as the monster known as the Craigslist killer strikes again. Just last night, surveillance photos reveal a suspect in the slaying of a woman in a Boston hotel. I'm Steve Kardian. Obviously, cops are using the internet and cell phone records to track this guy down.
Well, typically what happens, Jane, is that the prostitute or the masseuse will put up her phone number online. The John will contact that phone number and make an arrangement to meet them. So there should be some sort of a record. Hopefully he did make the mistake of using a familiar phone or his cell phone number.
All right.
He contributed to his own case. He made all the critical mistakes. He believed that he was more intelligent than law enforcement, and he's lending evidence against his own guilt.
What is holding up the investigation into who killed little Shania Davis? The girl's body was found Monday in rural North Carolina. Even more heinous, her own mom is already facing charges of selling the 5-year-old for sex. we wonder, as this is played out, why no murder charges? And Steve, jurisdiction an issue right now. How long will that hold things up? Is it holding things up, or what's going on behind the scenes while they figure that out?
Well, Mike, they want to do it. They want to do it right. And in most states, for example, a kidnapping can be prosecuted in any county in which that kidnapping or the child or the person was through. So this is probably the same case here. However, they want to get their eggs in order, and they want to make sure that they lay charges and have the strongest case where that child was eventually murdered.
Okay, let's bring back Steve before we go. Steve, at this point, are you hoping as an investigator that Antoinette Davis, Mario McNeil turning on each other, that's the way you're going to get a wealth of information?
It's likely that one of them did turn on each other before they lawyered up, Mike, and provided information that led to the whereabouts of her body.
Okay. Guys, we have to leave it there. Marlena, Steve, Drew, thanks so much.
Tonight, a massive search for a missing woman. A mom walking down a desolate road when she's snatched up. Her boyfriend on the phone with her actually hears her scream at the abductors, "Don't take me."
We need to educate and empower women and give them knowledge that's going to keep them safe. The predator's afraid of two things: getting caught and getting hurt. And teach women how to fight back and fight back correctly.
Steve Kardian about what happens when a crime crosses state lines.
If it's a kidnapping and they're being taken across state lines, Jane, they're going to get the FBI involved, and the agencies will coordinate with whatever's going to lead them to North Carolina. The North Carolina authorities, the Georgia authorities, and the FBI, as well as U.S. Marshals, will work on this case.
Tonight, horrifying new details about a serial killing spree in Cleveland as the first of at least 11 victims is identified. Police say convicted sex offender Anthony Sowell has been living with rotting corpses of at least 11 women. 37 days passed before police went to his home to arrest Sowell, and that's when they found the rotting corpses inside. You're representing the cops, and I'm a big believer in cops, but Steve Kardian, why did it take 37 days to check out this rape claim?
Well, Jane, let's take a look at the fact in just about every state that I'm aware of that rape is not a mandatory reported crime. So if you get a victim that's hesitant, that is reliant to come forward, that is reliant to cooperate with investigators, and you have a district attorney's office that says, well, she's not cooperative, she's being unreliable right now, it very well could take that long.
New revelations on a bizarre death on board a cruise ship. Married couple from Southern California, both celebrating their 55th birthday on a luxurious trip to Mexico. But police say Shirley McGill ended up murdered, her body discovered in their cabin, and now her husband, Robert, charged with the murder. He's facing a judge in San Diego. Steve, how difficult is it to investigate something like this on a cruise line? I mean, you're hoping that some passengers saw or heard something, right?
Yeah, Mike, hopefully they had some solid witnesses. I know the FBI interviewed at least 50 people. The good thing for the FBI in that investigation is the crime scene was contained to the cabin, from what I'm being told. And, you know, if it was secured properly by the onboard staff, then it should be a pretty well investigated crime.
Okay. Steve, real quick, I mean, with that said, you're seeing crime of passion here. What are your thoughts?
Well, Mike, we know that about 1/3 of all women killed in the United States are killed by their husbands or boyfriends, and that 2/3 of the time alcohol is involved.
Tonight, jaw-dropping news as Drew Peterson, whose fourth wife Stacy has been missing since 2007, was arrested and charged with the murder of his third wife, Kathleen Savio. Savio mysteriously died in a bathtub in 2004. The case was reopened as a homicide after Stacy's disappearance.
Steve Kardian, as a criminal investigator, what do you make of the fact that some believe Drew acted suspiciously on that very day?
He was way too careful, Jane. It certainly is suspect that he notified someone. There's two things that happen in a criminal act: is the thought and then the carrying out that thought, and somewhere in between or thereafter there's pre-indicators that may lend guilt towards oneself.
Yeah, absolutely. J.D. Weintraub, how do you defend that?
Police say was brutally gang raped in Phoenix by 4 boys, their ages 9 to 14. They're accused of luring her into a storage shed with bubble gum. She's 8. The family and the suspects, all from Liberia.
It's going to be very difficult, I think, for her to return to that environment right now, Mike. And the safety and well-being of that child is a primary consideration. I lecture across the country on sexual assault and sexual assault prevention, and I create instructors. And I have instructors in Africa. And it's a very, very horrific and difficult process that they're going through right now with sexual assault. I mean, it's only been a crime since the year 2006, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.